It's April 22, 2024. Trump's hush money trial now has a complete jury. I'm Sarah Obal. Welcome to the week's edition of The Pulse.
And I'm Sam Buban. Welcome to The Pulse.
Trump's New York criminal trial started Monday last week with jury selection. By Thursday last week, a full 12-person jury has been selected and sworn in. There are 4 criminal cases in 4 different jurisdictions that the former President Donald Trump is facing, but the focus the past 2 weeks is on the New York criminal case that Trump has failed to delay, even after 11 filings at the New York Court of Appeals. This case is mainly about election laws violation involving the falsification of his accounting records that Trump allegedly paid porn star Stormy Daniels to quiet down a story of then-candidate Trump sexual encounter with the porn star while married to Melania Trump, who was at home taking care of their son. The first 7 selected jurors consisted of an information technology worker, an English teacher, an oncology nurse, a sales professional, and software engineer and 2 lawyers. But 3 already asked to be dismissed for privacy reasons and fear of harassments from Trump supporters. But by the end of Thursday last week, there were 12 jurors. So 6 alternate jurors are still needed. Alternate jurors are those that are standby as a backup juror in the event of a dismissed jury, or if one juror cannot continue for valid reasons like illness, tainted jury, and other reasons acceptable to the presiding judge.
If you're new to the subject of jury selection in a state case, we are going to give you a simplified explainer about jury selection. The government usually, through the county jury commissioner, sends summons to hundreds of potential jurors in a particular county jurisdiction with names and addresses obtained usually from the Department of Motor Vehicle or from a voting list from the county clerk or the Secretary of State Election Division. These potential jurors respond by showing up in person, or they can send an email or a phone call to a voicemail to explain why they can't respond to the jury summon, or that they are not eligible to sit in a jury. Reasons like that they are not a U.S. citizen, or they are homebound for illness, or that they are a former convict, or that they are under probation, etc. This Trump criminal trial is history in the making, as this is the first time that an ex-U.S. president on a criminal trial. Overall, Donald Trump is facing 4 criminal cases and several civil lawsuits. Trump himself, in his public speeches, has been calling these investigations as political witch hunt and election interference, asserting that no president had ever had to go through this. But his detractors in many of the political spectrum would say, well, you're the only president who committed these crimes.
House Republicans submitted Mayorkas' impeachment to the Senate as Speaker Mike Johnson had it planned on Wednesday evening. However, Senate Republicans requested the delay until next week. It turns out that the sudden change of plans casted overwhelming doubts on the proceedings, since this would be one of the historic impeachment events of a cabinet secretary in a span of over 100 years.
President Biden restrains Netanyahu on responding to Iran as the president won't take part in his offensive retaliation. According to Wall Street Journal report, Biden plans to convene a group of 7 leaders on Sunday to coordinate the diplomatic response to Iran. We are going to take a commercial break. Please stay with us.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. In Los Angeles, the University of Southern California canceled the valedictorian's commencement speech due to security and safety concerns. Asna Tabassum, a Muslim student, USC's 2024 valedictorian, is slated to deliver a speech at the university's 141st commencement ceremony on May 10, 2024. This ceremony has taken on an alarming course, as stated in the letter published last Monday to the university community. Apparently, there has been threats about the valedictorian's views that were pro-Palestinian side, the reason why they took back her speech. This would be the first time in the history of the university that a valedictorian will not be giving any speeches to a commencement ceremony. This cancellation is like elimination of free speech, freedom to express our own views and opinions regardless of the current situation. No matter who will be impacted or what or how, this is something like a breach of democracy for students, some students commented. University students would find it so confusing as a brown race, or in this case a Muslim valedictorian, should not be allowed to speak during this very special event, as she has earned this recognition, and the chance to be heard in a crowd of young minds is one of the democratic rights. Universities should combat canceling events that could be perceived as censorship, especially as one high profile as a commencement speech, said Zach Greenberg, a First Amendment attorney with the National Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE.
Iran's Saturday's strike on Israel was a military defeat, but things could still go far worse, according to Reuters. On Saturday night, more than a week ago, Iran launched a massive retaliatory drone and missile attack on Israel, raising concerns that the Middle East was on the verge of a regional war. However, by Sunday morning, the situation appeared far less grave. Iran had telegraphed portions of its offensive, as well as its willingness to conclude the two-week conflict. Israel, with the assistance of the United States and its Arab neighbors, shot down 99% of the drones and missiles that were aimed at Israel. The strikes that made it through did not kill anyone, but they did do minor damage to a military base and injured a miner. 2 weeks earlier, Israel expanded its several-year-old assassination campaign against top Iranian security personnel by assassinating a senior Iranian general at the country's mission in Syria, a bold move given that the embassies are normally considered militarily off-limits. Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei described Tehran's retaliation as punishment for the attack, but its failure to cause considerable damage demonstrated that Israel is relatively safe from Iran's renowned drone and missile fleet.
In a report from Al Jazeera, Thailand's top diplomat visited Myanmar border amid confrontations and evacuations. Thailand's foreign minister has visited a border town near Myanmar, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, following days of hostilities in which ethnic minority armed groups forced the military regime's troops to retreat and hundreds of civilians fled. Foreign Minister Parnpree Badida Nukara paid a visit to the Thai town of Mae Sot, which is located over the border from Myanmar's Myawaddy and has been freed from military supervision. Thailand's foreign minister said it would suppress plans for another surge of Myanmar migrants. Thailand announced earlier this week that it will take 100,000 displaced persons fleeing Myanmar. However, Thai Prime Minister Srettha Thavisin warned on Thursday that the violence should not spread into his country's airspace.
In the United Kingdom, passions are rising as the House of Lords members demand on Rwanda bill revisions, according to BBC Africa. Peers voted to seek modifications to the measure, including amendment that would prohibit sending back asylum seekers who supported the deployment UK troops to Rwanda. Earlier, MPs rejected a number of modifications to the act passed by the Lords on Monday. The proposed law is expected to implement the long-delayed plan to transfer certain asylum seekers to the East African country and an act similar to waiting in a third country while their petition for asylum is being processed. We are going on a commercial break. Please don't go away. When we come back, we will be joined in the studio for an interview with a longtime public servant who had served in Nevada as an assembly member, a judge, a university board of regent, and as Congress representative for Nevada District 1, Shelly Berkley.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. Joining us now here at Film TV Studios is a longtime public servant who served in the state Nevada legislature and served as a judge, a university regent, and the U.S. Congress, Shelly Berkley. Ms. Berkley, welcome to The Pulse. We truly appreciate your coming to talk to us today.
Well, Sam, it's always a pleasure to be with you, so thanks for having me again.
It's my pleasure. Ms. Berkley, you had a long history as a public servant, and I am using that word carefully instead of the word politician because many of those who earlier in the position you held, like many that are in it right now, the pay is not even enough to pay a family, for the family to live on. You have already done it all in most of your life. But what is it about Las Vegas that you are still want to serve, still running for mayor?
Thank you for that. And I do consider myself a public servant and not a politician. But it's a political process that you go through in order to win an election and then be able to serve the public.
Yes.
As you remember, Sam, I'm the daughter of I'm the granddaughter of immigrants that came to this country. They couldn't speak English. They had no money. The only thing they had when they came to America was a dream. And that dream was that their children and their children's children would have a better life here than they had where they came from. My mother's side of the family is from Greece. My father's side of the family is from where they're fighting now in the Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up hearing about their hopes, dreams, aspirations, and for me, public service is my way of giving something back to this country for having taken my grandparents in, and not only giving us a chance to survive, but giving us a chance to thrive, and we certainly have. And Las Vegas, we ended up here quite by accident. My family, when I was born and a youngster, lived in upstate New York. And my father was a waiter when I was growing up. Neither one of my parents graduated high school because they had to go to work in order to support their brothers and their sisters. And so my dad was having a hard time supporting the family. And so one night he put my sister and I and the dog in the back seat of the car. My parents were in the front seat. Everything we owned was in a U-Haul hooked up to the back bumper. My dad had a letter of introduction to get a job as a waiter in Southern California. Drove across country, middle of the summer, no air conditioning back then in the car, and we got to Hoover Dam. And we never knew if we were coming back east again. This was such a big move for my family. And so since my sister and I didn't have to be in school because it was the summertime, and my mother didn't work, she was a stay-at-home mom. So my parents decided that they would come to Las Vegas. We would come to Las Vegas for the night We never left. It's a very Vegas story. So many people end up here because they can't go any further. And a few days later, my dad went down to the Culinary Union, and they sent him to the old Sands Hotel, where he was a waiter in the coffee shop. And by the time the Sands was imploded, my dad was the longest serving employee at the Sands. He'd been there for 33 years. And
Wow.
he moved from being a waiter to a captain to the maitre d' in the showroom. So I often say that I didn't grow up in Las Vegas. I grew up with Las Vegas. I mean, there were 80,000 people in the Las Vegas Valley when we first got here. Now there's 2.5 million people in the same area.
Wow.
So because my desire to serve is rooted in giving something back to this country, I still feel there's a lot more to do, and that with my background and my knowledge about the community and the state and the nation, that I would run for mayor of Las Vegas and serve the people that call Southern Nevada home. So I'm very excited about the possibility.
I could imagine. How old were you when that happened?
12.
You're practically a native, a Las
As
Vegas
close as you
native.
can get. My sister was 7 and I was 12. And we made a life for ourselves in the middle of the desert. Honest to goodness, Sam, when we first moved here, I thought my parents took me to hell. It was the hottest place I'd ever imagined. I couldn't walk out on the sidewalk. I stayed in the apartment all summer long, and I cried. I wanted to go back to New York. And then I started school at John C. Fremont, because we lived in the Boulevard Park apartments right across the street from where we're sitting right now. This is my neighborhood, and so I know it very, very well.
So I think that's really amazing that you're a daughter of immigrants and you came to the U.S. So what are some of the particular issues or matters that need to be addressed by the city of Las Vegas if you were to be elected as the new mayor?
Well, there are a number of issues that the community is very concerned about, and I'll share some of them with you.
Please do.
The first one is public safety. Everybody is worried about crime, and they want to be able to feel safe in their homes and safe in their neighborhoods. And so I understand that, particularly seniors, older Americans, they're afraid to even walk out the door or go to their mailbox and pick up their mail. So public safety is probably the most important issue for people. But homelessness, as you know, there are more and more homeless people on our streets. We have to address that issue. Number one, it's a humanitarian issue. But number two, the small businesses downtown are all complaining that their customers can't get into their front door. And let's face it, with small businesses, your life savings is in that small business. So we have to protect small businesses as well. And as more and more homeless leave the downtown area and start living on the streets in different parts of the community, people are demanding action. So I think that's a very important issue. Also, affordable housing. Even now, middle-income families can't afford to buy a home for their families. And I think that's very important. And I'll tell you why. The very first home we ever bought was here in Las Vegas. And the house cost $33,000. It was right near Valley High School, because I went to Valley. And it may not have been the Taj Mahal, but it gave us roots in the community. We belonged here. It made a difference in our lives. And I am sure that families that are living here or moving to Las Vegas want the same opportunity for their kids as well.
That is actually wonderful to hear. Any particular, possible avenue or ideas that might, in terms of the housing crisis, that it's not just Las Vegas that experiencing it, that it's like every urban area in around the country has that the problem with housing or affordable housing.
Yes, it is. Look, I like the fact that the governor of the state is working with our federal delegation to have the BLM, because 87% of the state of Nevada is owned by the federal government. If the problem is, and as business people it's supply and demand. We don't have enough housing for the population that we have, and so the cost of housing, what exists, is skyrockets. So if we could get more land from the federal government, we can build affordable housing and give people an opportunity to purchase a home or live in an affordable apartment if they choose to do that. So that's important. Also, in the city of Las Vegas, we're dealing with infill, where there's a lot of single lots and small parcels of land. If we could bring those parcels together where we can have a large enough piece of property to build apartments, to build condos, I think that's going to help a lot also. And then just recently, somebody came and made a presentation to me about prefabricated homes that are manufactured elsewhere and erected on a piece of property, and the cost of that is a fraction of what building a home costs.
So since 2018, the midterm election and the 2 election cycle that followed in 2020 and 2022, more women were getting involved nationwide. Do you think women again will be out in larger drones and elect more women in 2024?
Well, this is so funny because I grew up in an era that things were just changing. In my law school class, and I started law school in 1974. Out of 280 people, students in my incoming class in law school, 280, 20 of us were women. Now, the following year, 20% of the class was women. And so I was just there at the time that women were applying to professional school, that they were getting, jobs outside the home. And I was part of that, that amazing transition. Now, when I was the CEO and senior provost of Touro University Medical School, when I had freshman orientation and I looked around, there were more women than men in the class. So we're definitely, things are changing, and there are far more women running for office, and the more women that run for office, the more women are going to win. And I think that's very important. If you have this passion like I do, and I started very early, and my first office in the Nevada State Legislature, oh my goodness, there were 3 or 4 of us in the legislature. Things have changed, and even my first race I ran in 1982. I was pregnant with my son Max. I think, Sam, you may know Max.
Yes,
and
he was a judge.
He ran for judge
too.
He ran for judge.
Yeah.
So I was campaigning with 50 extra pounds, and I was working full time and running for office. So it can be done. When I look back, I think I was crazy, but I did it. But now, I think women are getting into more and more fields. As far as I'm concerned, it's still the most qualified candidate should win. That doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Just do your job.
I agree, yeah.
You haven't seen this kind of chaos that they're happening now, right?
No, and Sam, let me give you an example because things have changed so dramatically since I was, I left Congress, the whole place fell apart. What can I say? When that VA hospital in North Las Vegas was in my congressional district.
Yes.
And we needed a VA hospital desperately because we have so many veterans in Southern Nevada.
Yes.
And if you were a veteran and you were sick, you had to go to Long Beach to get care, and that was unacceptable to me.
Wow.
So we worked my office, that was our goal. We were going to build a VA hospital in Southern Nevada. Now, when we got approval to build that hospital, it was under Republican George Bush,
Yes.
and the Congress was controlled by the Republicans. And even with that, in a Democratic district, which my congressional district was a Democratic district, we were still able to get approval and funding because it was the right thing to do. I'm not sure that could happen now. And it's so partisan and so divided that it does a tremendous disservice to all of us.
Shelly, what would you like the voters to know about you and in order for them to vote for you?
Sam, thank you for that question. I think what people should know is that I have a multi-decade history of public service in this community. I'm known as a hard worker and somebody that represents her constituents to the best of my ability. And I will do everything I can to improve the quality of life for all of our fellow citizens that live in the city of Las Vegas and call Las Vegas home.
Thank you. Thank you for even joining us today.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, it's almost at the end of our show. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today here at The Pulse. Any last words from you for our audience?
No, I just want to thank you for having me and giving me an opportunity to talk about issues that I think are so very, very important to all of the people here in Southern Nevada. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Of course. So please join us again next time at The Pulse. I'm Sarah Obal. Thank you for watching.
And I'm Sam Buban. God bless your week.